Hi everyone, this is Vasant. In this video, I want to cover how I built a stock and ETF trading brain. Right, it's a complete AI-powered multi-account portfolio system. Let's review what the system is first, and then we can review the technology behind it and thesis behind it. Okay. First of all, it uses the enriched Karpathy loop. If you don't know what it is, essentially it'll sync the information from my portfolio, and then it ingests the information from all these different data sources. Could be like Yahoo Finance News or NewsAPI or Google search, all these different sources and some of paid APIs as well. And it uses the Claude brain to analyze it. So, and then it gives me the signal, right, when to buy and when to sell signals. And finally, for those which support APIs, it can even execute it. But at this point in time, I am limiting the execution to the manual review and manual execution only. Once we execute it, it learns, right, whether the stock has moved up or down, right? Now, another factor to consider is if you look at the entire area, right? If you look at this entire area, so this, let's say I want a capital allocation of 170K, right? The core growth, which could be like in IRA segment, you don't want to be allocating in a high risk capital, right? This has to be in one portfolio. And then the swing has to be in another portfolio. And then let's say the moonshot should be in another portfolio, right? So all these things are different depending on what the purpose of the portfolio itself is. Now that's where this learn comes into the picture, right? It uses the enriched Karpathy's style of loop, saying that whatever decisions it has made, it keeps analyzing on every run, on every news that comes in. And it stores the information in the SQLite database on what the decision was done before and evaluates the same decision based on the new information it has achieved. Now let's go on to the full system architecture, right? It uses Robinhood API and Webull API. Like this is where these are all fictitious numbers, but let's say these are the numbers that my position holds, right? It uses it here, and then it gets the information from these three options, which is Yahoo Finance, News API, and let's say options chain, right? These are like different data sources. And then finally, we have a Claude API for the deep analysis. And there is a Python script that runs every, let's say like 3 hours or whatever we have scheduled on, which will ingest from all these APIs. And once it ingests, it saves everything into the SQLite database as a brain. And then the multi-agent analysis happens here, right? It does the technical analysis, fundamental, sentiment, macro, options. Like these are all fed into the AI agents, and these are some things that keep evolving, right? Because you can't feed everything out there into the agent, but it has to be very specific to the portfolios that agent is working on. And finally, we have an strategic and decision engine. This is again a different, it uses a different set of the agents than what your analysis agents were, right? And it uses sort of a hedge fund manager agent as well to devise a strategy for the goals that we have set for the the portfolio types, right? So, and once it analyzes the strategy and it takes the decision, right, then it goes through a set of approval system, right? So approval system for a human review to be required, and then route to the broker if the broker allows the automatic execution. And finally, it does the trade log. So to test the system effectively, you have to at least run it in the paper trading in a simulated environment for several days and weeks, and that's pretty much what I'm running on. I'm using some of the indicators that it has given, right, because those stocks were pretty much what I was tracking as well for my own purpose. But on the long story short, this is the entire system that does everything right from A to Z. Now, if you want to go details about how each of these things work, we can just review that. It syncs the positions, right? As I said, if I have a position in different stock brokerage, some of them allow read-only APIs where read and write, so it syncs the position. And once you have the position information, then it ingests the data that affects those positions, right? As well as it'll ingest the data that aligns with your portfolios. Let's say you're looking to invest in a moonshot stocks, or if you're looking to do the swing trading, right? It analyzes, all that factors that is required for your portfolio, and it ingests the data. And finally, there are like 6 specialist agents that has been created, and along with the risk manager. So these specialist agents will do technical analysis, fundamental, sentiment, macro. All these happens based on the ingested data and already data that is stored in the system, right? And it uses the Claude LLM, which is one of the best in the market today. And after that, it does the agent analysis pipeline, right? So this is a diagram of how it analyzes it. And if you look at it, it does all the P&E, earnings and growth analysis, which is a fundamental analysis, RSI and MCAD, Bollinger, right? So all this analysis happens in parallel, and it aggregates all the 5 signals, and it runs through the risk manager, whose job is to say whether it needs to give the signal to me to buy or sell, or should just block if it is false analysis. And this is where the Karpathy Loop come into the play, where the risk manager is always self-evolving, and it gives the information back to the analysis context, right? If something is off, if it is getting blocked, and if this opinion doesn't align with the signals agent, then it gives the loop back saying that why it is rejecting it. And then these agents will self-learn out of that. And this is the 4th segment, strategy and decision engine. This is quite a lot that will happen inside this, right? So from an hedge fund, from a pattern matching, the strategy that you want to go after, whether it is core growth, which is conservative growth, or swing or moon stocks and stuff like that. And there is also an different set types of analysis that it evaluates before giving it the signal to me. And these are some of the decision trees that is already built in, right? I won't go too details about it. For those who wants to learn a little more about why it's been done this way, I would suggest just take a screenshot and ask your ChatGPT or Claude Code, and it'll just give you the complete explanation of what each of these things are doing. And one of the most important aspect is approval and execution. Right? Once it gives a signal, let's say at this point I'm manually managing my portfolio. At some point, let's say I want to integrate and automatically manage the portfolio, send the API signals to it, to the stockbroker. In that case, we can build a system. Right now I'm managing everything using backend clear CLI, but we can just build a quick HTML interface which can go through the approval cycle where the owner of the portfolio can approve it, and then it goes into the stockbroker system using broker API. And finally, I want to touch upon the learn and improve loop. It uses the Ingest Karpathy like Bayesian self-improvement system, right? It checks all the open predictions against the price movement and marks whether it is correct or incorrect. It calculates P&L, right? And it does a stop loss or take profit hit. Those signals will be given, and if any of those hit, then it learns out of that, and that's very important. And all the key information for learning it is saved in the SQLite database. It is not saved in a huge log files. And the good thing about saving it in the SQLite database is you can do the embeddings so that the agents can look at the specific piece of information really fast, just like the SQLite with RAG embeddings, right? And finally, this is the infrastructure layer. As I said, there are like 14 schema tables, articles, predictions, outcomes, patterns, and so on and so forth here. And we have an orchestrator, that is a trading brain, which will do this complete loop of ingest, scan, learn, and it updates the dashboard. And dashboard is just a simple file to me at this point in time, and I'm planning to just expand that into an HTML. So that's pretty much it, folks. So as you can see, built a complete portfolio system right from the scratch using Claude Code. And if you want to look at, how the data would look, right? So I've scheduled a cron job on my MacBook, which runs, every hour to ingest the data. And then this is something like, the portfolio that it'll look. Now it spits out the information into the dashboard and it keeps updating depending on the stocks that I've invested in. And it also gives a signal to buy or sell and eventually keeps updating. And obviously this is in a paper trading mode. And so on my next run, it'll update that. And same is the case with IRA. There are like several tranches that it'll spit and it gives a signal of when to buy, what to buy, and so on and so forth based on all this fundamental analysis. So that's pretty much it. Now, I'm not a financial analyst, but this is a system that I use every day for my own needs. And if you want to build such a system, use this system and you want me to set it up for you, there's a link in a bio where you can buy the system and I can help you ship the code and then help you set up everything into your Mac Mini or something so that you can leverage the system and then use it for own learning purposes. So thank you and have a good day.